Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, I have Jess Mazzii. Is that how you pronounce your last name?
Yeah,
Mazzi?
Mazzi, yeah.
Mazzi. I love it. So we have Jess Mazzii on the podcast. She is the owner and operator of Mazzi Fit, an online fitness company dedicated to helping people get sober through fitness and personal development. So welcome to the podcast, Jess.
Thank you so much for having me. Honestly, this is it's a long time coming.
I'm so happy to have you on. And yes, it has been a very long time coming. We've been talking about this for what?
It's been months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say maybe even 5, 6 months at this point.
Yeah.
I'm so very glad that it's finally happening, and I'm so excited to talk to you. You have a crazy story, from what I've heard throughout your Instagram and what we talked about. So I'm super excited to get going into that and how you came about into owning your own fitness business. So let's start off let's talk about your fitness business, and then we'll kind of go from there and then work backwards into your personal story. So what kind of caused you to start your own personal training business?
So, a few years ago, one of my buddies, and he's a rapper in Orlando, he let out an album called I Changed. And there was a small skit in the album called the Wes Watson skit. And that is my trainer, actually. So I heard this skit and I was like, who is this screaming into the microphone about like personal development and being like a better person? And at this point in my life, I was overweight and drinking a lot and partying. So I started listening to him, and he's just been such an influence in my life. I lost 60 pounds before I even jumped on his program. And then once I did, I got my macros dialed in, and then I was like, man, I need to do this. Like, I need to help people. I have the tools and the answers to, things that cause people so much pain in this life. So I felt it would be selfish for me not to have this.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that a little bit. So I know I've seen your transformation. If you guys have a moment to go check out her Instagram, I will put it in the show notes. Go and do it. Her transformation is unfreaking believable. You've lost so much weight. You're looking absolutely killer now. But what got you to that point? So where were you at previously? And because we don't just go to that period. Like, what caused you to go into drinking and all this other stuff?
So, at a young age, I was about 14 when I started started smoking cigarettes, then marijuana, and then it just kind of spiraled from there, really. I started using pills, Xanax in particular, and then it spiraled into cocaine and drinking, and this was a regular thing that I was doing at the age of 14 is when it really got bad. And I did that for 6 years, and it was a vicious cycle of just um, God, I mean, I was homeless at one point. I was in super abusive relationships. I treated my family like crap during this period of time in my life. But then whenever I decided to get sober, I kind of got the shit scared out of me. I was driving and I was kind of inebriated from the night before. It was about 6 a.m. and a car cut me off and ran me off the road, and I flipped 7 times. And because I was so limp from the drugs that I was on, the Xanax, I ended up being okay. But that just kind of showed me that life is super fragile, and so I stopped using substances. I was still drinking for a while. And then, I just realized that I was gaining weight, and it just ended up being enough is enough where, why am I wasting my life drinking and partying and living for the weekend when, I'm supposed to be setting an example for my family and the people that I love, And then it ended up being almost like a calling for me. When I finally did end all substances, I was like, you know what, I need to make this more than just about myself. So it's just driven me to be the best example that I can for people that maybe can't handle one drink every once in a while. You know, can't handle the drugs and the alcohol. And it's a very lonely place, especially for people our age, to be
Mhm.
sober. Like, and having a place where people can connect and like be into positive habits and just be able to vibe without like drinking and drugs and like the societal norms of fun.
No, absolutely. Wow, that's so powerful. There's so many emotions that you just kind of took me through. It went That was wild. So, going back, I kind of want to ask you some questions about your childhood because starting at such a young age, was that caused through peer pressure, through family pressure? Do you mind me asking that?
So not necessarily like anything with my family because my parents got divorced when I was around 12, but that really didn't have a huge effect on me. Like I knew that my parents were so much better off separate.
Yeah.
They live amazing lives individually, and we're such a close knit family. Me being so addicted to substances was kind of like a wrench in our lives.
Yeah.
Not to like put any kind of like, oh, it was, you know, this person's fault or the other. My sister was also like into partying at the time, and you know, she knew how to handle it, but I didn't, and that's kind of where it comes into like um, me being able to turn that into like a purpose of mine
Mm-hmm.
because
Absolutely.
I have to lead from the front. You know what I mean? It when your weakness is their way out. If I end up being like, oh, I'm gonna, you know, have a drink on the weekends, somebody else that I'm trying to help get sober is gonna be like, well, you can do that. Why can't I? So that's kind of where that kind of all stems from. But it was, you know, some of my sister and then some of like friends for sure.
Of course.
I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida, so it was kind of like it was like a huge drug theme at the time that I was growing up. Drugs and partying was just the only thing to do, and I've probably lost about a little under 2 dozen of my like friends and like people that I knew from
Mm-hmm.
like drugs and alcohol and car accidents and stuff like that. Like it's just piled up after the years.
Yeah. It's listening to that, it's like a crazy connection that you have because you went from this like follower role when it came to like when you were growing up, you saw your older siblings and you had this influence of everyone else around you doing these things. And especially at such a young age, you just want to as fit in and be like other people to be liked, I guess. But you went from this follower and you completely changed that, and now you are this amazing role model for so many other people. So you took that and you took those lessons and you're able to switch it, and now you're changing people's lives for the better because a lot of people go through that, and it's. Oh, I believe it's something that isn't as talked about. Like, yes, it's talked about, but it's not as talked about as it should be, and
Yeah.
how to get better. And you've been able to take that and switch it for the better, which is unbelievable and truly remarkable. So kudos to you for being able to do everything that you've been through in the past, not even about 10 years. But so with that being said as well, I did want to ask you a question, like what was your mindset going through that? Like at the time, did you realize it was bad? Did you just want to fit in? Do you remember like kind of where you were mindset wise?
Oh my gosh.
I know that's a hard.
I think it kind of stemmed from like trying to fit in, yes, but I think there was a deeper like root to it for sure. Um, Wanting to kind of okay, so if I'm putting myself back in that situation, I'm like 13 years old, 14 years old, during that complicated age where you're going through like so much hormonally and mentally, and I feel like that like trigger from like depression, and like there was so many things in my life that was changing, and being a teenager and going through change is like, when you're a kid, everything's the end of the world. So I felt super alone. And I think that my coping mechanism was just to reach outward. And that's what was on the outside was drugs and alcohol and partying.
Yep.
So a lot of times we forget that every solution that we're looking for in our lives, we need to look inward for.
Mhm.
And when you start reaching for these outward solutions, they're very temporary and they end up making you spiral at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. So now let's kind of dive into for people who are watching that either are in this place of mind or are in the middle of recovering or know someone that's in one of those places. Um, what would be like your first step into kind of understanding how to even look inward and how to start there? Because that's really hard going from being this person who's influent you're when especially when you're surrounded by things, I feel like it's really hard to change. You might internally want to change, but when it's around, it's just like if you binge on Twinkies, I don't know, at night, and if you have them laying around, it is so dang impossible to stop that because it's there, and being surrounded by it is making it there. So, what would be your first step for anybody who's watching to look inward and start to understand how to change their mindset so it goes outward?
I think that the first step is to realize that self love and your journey is always going to start off very selfish. It's going to be, hey, I need to work on me. You have to be able to look in the mirror and be honest. Like at the end of the day, um, we all have things that we need to work on in our lives, and having that self honesty and be like, hey, I need to cut this out. It's going to be lonely. It's going to be like a lot of people don't want to reach out because they want to fit in with the crowd. Like, I had a friend of mine recently tell me that, she told her friends that she didn't want to drink anymore. And they were like, yeah, I didn't want to say anything, but, I was kind of embarrassed to admit that I had a drinking problem. But then the next weekend, her friends were out drinking, and, she chose to stay home and, go to the gym instead when she had a trigger. So, with that, it's like such a normal thing to want to like fit in. But whenever you actually are completely honest with yourself and say, hey, look, I need to change this, work on yourself. Like, you can't, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So you need to just fine tune every area of your life. Like, wake up time needs to be the same. You need to hold your word to yourself. Put power into those little things. I love how it does that. Put power into those little things in your life, like your wake up time, like your fitness and your nutrition. And then once you gain that mental clarity from all those positive actions that you're doing, beautiful spiritual transformations start, and it ends up being a really beautiful thing.
No, absolutely. I loved how you said that, like, you do have to truly love yourself first. That is such a big thing, and it is a very selfish act at first. Even though innately it's not very selfish, so to speak, it is selfish, especially when you look at other people. It's a good type of selfish. You're doing it for yourself, and you want to change yourself for the better. Um, so no, I love that you said that, and holding your word to yourself is also so true, and it's so hard at first too, like just to even make your bed in the morning. Like I'm also a coach just like yourself, and I just tell people, I'm like, just make your bed in the morning, just hold
Yeah.
that to yourself, do one thing, and those tiny habits will slowly build up over time like you're saying, and it truly transforms your being inside and out, and it's just unbelievably remarkable. So I know you talked about that woman you've coached. what has been your biggest and most admirable transformation? Because I know you have plenty of them, especially with the niche that you work in, um, that you completely change lives, which is so incredible. But tell me what has been your favorite one thus far?
So okay, I'm always gonna go back to this one because it's actually my best friend.
Oh my,
So when we first met, she was going through so much, and I was kind of just starting my fitness journey. I was going to the gym every day, so I was in this super heightened spiritual state, and I was just so enlightened, and I had to let it out. Like I had to share it with everybody, and we actually ended up like matching as friends on Tinder. And so we met up at this restaurant, and we were just like, you know what? Let's hang out. Da 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 da. She pulls up in this like '05 beat up Nissan Sentra, and I have like my brand new car. And she's like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "Well, I'm in sales." And you know, I started going into my story and stuff like that, and she was kind of wondering in the back of her head, like, "What does this person like see in me? Like I don't have very much money. Like I'm, you know, kind of figuring my life out. I have a bit of an alcohol problem. Like, why does she want to be friends with me?" And it was just the universe truly drawing us together as friends. And so, gosh, it's been like almost 3 years now, I think, that we've been friends. And she has two cars now. She's super successful. She goes to the gym every single day. She quit drinking. She got her sister to quit drinking and go to the gym. Her entire family is just closer as a unit now that they found God, like, and they found like peace and love for themselves, and they're able to give it to other people now and their family and their surroundings. And it was like the most amazing transformation, like in all areas of her life. And it truly goes to show that once you're able to give yourself that love and you possess that love for yourself, you're able to give it to other people. Because it's like when people say, if your cup is not full, you can't fill others. It's the same. Like you can't transcend self and be able to give what you don't possess.
that that was that was so beautiful. No, that and it's crazy that Mazzi Fit doesn't just change people, individuals, it changes families and butterfly effects all the way out. That is unbelievable. So you have been able to not only change your best friend, but change her entire life and everyone in it. That is, you must. No, I know exactly why you tell that. Like the emotion that I have right now is just, I'm so happy and like it's just so crazy that you've been able to transform that. Like that, truly remarkable. I'm speechless for sure. Um, so you guys met off of Tinder Friends, which is so cool. And you did you see, so the first thing that when you were telling me that she was like a bit of an alcoholic, she had like an older beat up car, did you see your like younger self in her at one point? Like did you kind of see that? You're like, wow, she's like me, but like the old me, and you kind of were able to like a little clay that you're able to kind of
Yeah,
mold.
exactly. I think that the limiting beliefs that she had in her mind were so embedded at that time, and I was able to see, like you said, like my former self. And you know, I lived in a 2005 Nissan Altima, like in the on the beach with my dog for like a few months. And like seeing her pull up in that old beat up Nissan, I was just kind of like, damn, like that's so crazy that the universe kind of has those parallels, you know, and you're able to kind of see those things in other people.
Absolutely.
Um,
Everything happens for a reason.
yeah, and I think the most important part about having a coach is having somebody in your corner that believes in you more than you believe in yourself.
I, I agree. It's so powerful. Like I know you said that you have a coach too. So like you understand like even when you're a coach, you need to have a coach to always have someone to be able to see something that you don't, or be able to be like, "Hey, learn this, or they teach you something new. Like there's so many things to learn and grow with. Um, no, but that's incredible that you've been able to transform your best friend. And it's, you said 3 years. So in a fairly short amount of time too. Like, I mean, like that 3 years is a good chunk of time, but in the like span of things, that's actually a very short amount of time to have such an incredible transformation.
Oh yeah. Oh
No.
yeah. I mean, me myself, like I quit drinking a year ago, about 2 months ago. So that means I've owned this business for almost 7 or 8 months now. And
Crazy.
like, just she's the reason why I knew I should be a life coach. I was
Yeah.
like, this, I'm actually like a good influence on people, like I was like, this is crazy. So it was really cool to see somebody that I held so dearly to me, and like she will be my best friend forever.
Absolutely.
She's actually opening her own business and starting, like, that growth process is just incredible to watch in other people, especially seeing it from the beginning.
Mhm. Absolutely. Um, had a question. Now it's slipping on me. But let me ask you another one. So, in your process and in your journey, has there been any specific resources, such as like books, podcasts, things of that nature, that really helped you at least like kind of kick off your journey, to transform in the person you are today?
Definitely Wes Watson's podcast that he lets out 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Those like really inspire me because they're all different, and I feel like he truly hones into the message that everything in our life is connected.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I can talk about for hours. But also, Napoleon Hill let out a book called Outwitting the Devil, and I
Yep.
think that, God, I even like have anxiety just like talking about it, because it just it feels like information that you're not supposed to know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that book is just so powerful in explaining how the devil can infiltrate your mind in such crazy ways, and in things that are so socially normal and accepted. Um, so yeah, I mean, being able to bring the best version of yourself to everybody else around you is just the way of life that I'll never stray from
No,
because of
absolutely.
that book.
Yeah. I downloaded that book a while back because I know you can get it for free. I even heard I think Bedros Koulian, if you know who he is, talk
Yes.
about it.
Yeah.
I heard it just so transformative for everyone who reads it. It gives you a new light. It's like one of those things where once you read it, you never look at life the exact same.
Yeah. I've read it 3 times, and I've found different messages in it every single time that were like, wow, I didn't realize that before, because it's a book that makes you think so much. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like it takes a couple times to really process and let it sink in. Like, it's one of those.
Yeah, for sure. What has been your biggest takeaway from Outwitting the Devil?
Oh my gosh. That I feel like how my journey went when I was like on drugs and abusing substances made so much sense because of that book. Like, why it spiraled, and why, I'm now able to understand my mind more, and why humans do things the way that they do, and why they're just accepting of these low vibrating frequencies, because it ends up just being a cycle.
Yeah.
um, and I feel like I'm able to catch myself and fight that, like, negative inner voice that's like, no, you can't, da da da. And you're able to recognize it and be like, no, that's, the devil essentially speaking to me. And I need to take control of that and say, I can do anything, and just keep going.
No, I love that. It's so true. I went to church like 2 weeks ago, and my pastor was talking about thoughts, and he was talking about how 80% of our thoughts throughout the day are negative. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but humans on average have around between 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day. And the average person has 40,000 thoughts. So 80% of those being negative, and it's an astronomical amount,
Yeah.
especially with like the world that we live in today and all of the news and the media. And that's how they capture you too. I don't know if you recognize that as well. But that's how they capture you. And that negative talk not only is on the outside, but then it infiltrates you on the
Exactly.
inside too.
Yeah.
Unfreaking believable. Have you found that do you have any like specific guidelines that you kind of follow or that you teach people to be aware of these negative self thoughts, like these negative self thoughts, not talks, thoughts? Because I know at first I used to deal with the same. It's like a bug in your head, and you just it's always there, and you can't get it out. How did you figure that out and start to pinpoint it when it starts to come in?
So I am somebody who used to just be inherently negative and
Mhm.
just angry and upset at the world and think that everything was happening to me. And now I've kind of switched that around and everything's happening for me to make
Yeah.
me patient, to make me strong, and to build my mental, my mental health and things like that. Um, and I just see it as I like doing this exercise. When I think of a negative thought, and we all do it subconsciously,
Mhm.
I catch myself and I say no, and I turn that same thought into a positive one. And I even do it for like everybody does this when we're just being critical of others. You look at somebody and you immediately have a thought, and 90% of the time it's negative. Oh, that person's fat. That person, what are they wearing? Whatever. I just end up telling myself, no, you know what? That's probably a beautiful person, and they're just going through something right now, and I wish them the best.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I turn things around, and try to be in control of that. That's how I take control of it personally.
No, absolutely. It's just being aware and bringing that awareness to the forefront of your mind rather than just the thoughts that kind of pass through your head.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
that's crazy.
exactly.
A great I would say that's a great tactic for sure. I know of some people who even like write it down and then write the opposite down too. Who just like cuz writing it down really actually embeds it into your mind. It's like this is how to think positive. You have to it's like a skill. You have to teach yourself
Yeah,
over and over and over again. I even find like a lot of people, you probably even see that as well in your own training business where people will be hard on themselves because they're not perfect about it. And it's like, well,
exactly.
this is the exercise that we're working on.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, this is where we need to change that into the positive mindset. But no, that's a great way to do it. So throughout the period of going through the addictions and this, that, and the other, and then being able to change, I assume that there was a lot of fear and a lot of like scared moments in your life like I don't know what's on this other side because I know people in general just do not like change. We never like to change. We like to stay where we are because we feel safe and complacent, no matter if that's necessarily in a bad loop or a good one. So what sort of experiences did you feel in the sense of fear, and how did you handle that?
I think in my personal journey, I was more afraid of like losing the people that I loved, than doing like I wanted their approval and for them to be proud of me more than I wanted to do drugs at that point in my life. And the biggest fears that I had were, what if I can't stop? Like, what if I try and I can't? I mean, I tried to get sober 5 times. I got this tattoo the third time I tried to get sober. It's the symbol for new beginnings.
Mhm.
I Googled it. It may mean some crazy thing in some other language, but But
That's our
at that
biggest fear,
time,
right?
yeah, exactly. But at that time, that was the third time I tried to get sober, and the fifth time it finally like stuck, and I decided like that's when I flipped the car and I bought that last like six pills of Xanax, and I weaned myself off of it so I wouldn't have seizures. And yeah, like I was good at doing drugs at the time. Like I knew exactly what was going to happen if I just quit cold turkey. So I needed to actually wean myself off of it. But I think, yeah, the biggest fear was that I wouldn't be able to stop, and that I wouldn't be able to make my family proud, and that I was going to be lonely, and my friends weren't going to, like me anymore, and things like that. I mean, at that point in my life when I tried to get sober, I probably had like 15 friends pass away from that, and people that were super close to me. So it was like, okay, keep doing this and keep making it worse. And all these things in your life were just going to continue to crash and burn. And you were just going to be another statistic, or, you can finally get up and say enough is enough, and make your family proud and change things.
For sure. I know you were that's it it's a really hard mindset to switch around and kind of get through too, especially because you were talking about the approval of others, and it seemed like even kind of just starting in the realm of drugs was through that as well. So you had this like it was like a tug of war in your mind essentially of like, do I go towards this lane where you don't even know if you're going to survive it, and not change for that approval, or do you do better and you actually just go for it, and you did that and you're prospering now because of it. So with that being said, in the approval of others, how did you kind of manage that? Because I know that's a really big issue, especially again in society today with social media and just wanting to be liked by people. um, how did you manage that mindset, and how did you like decide to go with the route that you did?
I think the decision of like getting sober and trying to like change everything around came from um, genuinely wanting a different life, because when I was younger, I pictured my life in a certain way, and when I found myself homeless living with my dog, it was just kind of like I'm not only sacrificing the health and well-being of myself, but also like an innocent animal, and like it just really like tore me to pieces to think about um, the effect that I was having on everybody in my life. So I think that really like pulled me out of that, and
Yeah.
also made me realize that I could be seeking better influences. Like if I needed help, I could go to my parents. I could go to, my brother and my sister, and really just talk to them about it. One of the um, like conversations that I had with my sister before I got sober, and that really kind of flipped a switch in my head was, we were driving home, and she just got really deep with me, and she was like, I don't want you to be like all of our friends that are passing away. Like, I don't want to have that phone call. So I think that really like pulled me out of it because of the love that I had for my family. Um, and like my dog is literally the best dog on the entire planet. Like I've had her since she was 5 weeks old, and she's been to parties with me. She's seen me at my very, very lowest, and now she's like living her best life with me now, and she's so cool. She'll be 8 in April. Um,
Oh.
yeah, so it's cool to have like even an animal see me like full circle.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
So yeah, I think that just being able to reach out to like more positive influences, and realizing that I wasn't necessarily putting myself in the best situations either.
No, absolutely. So it was good that you had this sort of the your family was super supportive of you going through this as well, and they were there to help as like you said, your sister, even though she was an influence into like just a one of the many influences to kind of getting you into this position, but she also was that influence to get you out, which is
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
beautiful in its own like it's like kind of like a full circle sort of thing moment where it's like, hey, like this is like yes, this was our past, but now let's go and shift into our future. And I know you brought up the vision of the future and how you were growing up. You had this wonderful vision, and then it kind of all hit you when you were homeless, living with your dog. What sort of vision was that? Like, what was your vision for the future before this even all started?
So, I've always been into cars and like the lavish things in life. And obviously, like social media, we didn't really have that back then. But this
Hmm.
was just a mindset that I just had as a young kid. That I was like, I always told my parents like I'm gonna drive a Lamborghini one day, and like I just always had this like I don't know, this urge to like make a lot of money and like be super successful, but I always wanted to help people too.
Hmm.
Like, as a kid, I like was really good with my money. I saved like I would just have a box full of like 20s and hundreds, like, and it was super crazy because my parents would be like, "Did we give you all that money?" I'm like, "Yeah, but I did this, this, and this, and this," and like, you know, and it was always super crazy, and like I always wanted to help, like with anything that my parents were doing, like anything that my sister needed, like my family needed around the house or whatever. I was always like willing to help. So I just always kind of have had this mentality, but during obviously that process of like addiction, like I kind of lost myself.
Yeah.
And now like I'm like coming back into that person, but now I'm an adult and I can actually achieve these things, you know?
No, that's incredible. That's so cool that you had that like vision even at such a young age. I was funny because I was actually just talking to my coworker today about like we have someone on the team at AR, and she at the age of 5 was just really competitive, and it got her to a point she lost herself as well, and then all of a sudden like it got her to a point where she was traveling the world for Adidas, like sort of ordeal, like crazy stuff. And it seems like you have that same thing, like you're stepping back into who you were meant to be. Like you kind of had to derail a little bit to see the other side of things, but now you're coming back and now you're able to help people, that which is your innate like your innate being here because you felt that from a young age, to help the people that were in the position that you were in not too long ago, which is unbelievable and so remarkable that again there's another little full circle that we have there that's just transformative in of its own way.
Oh yeah. You have to, and I've learned this so much. Like, if I would have never gone through that, I would have never had the gratitude that I do for life.
Hmm.
And I think that it's very important for you to go through those tough times and like really sit with your emotions and feel everything, because you cannot, I feel like you can't be fully grateful and experience these high highs if you've never been through those low lows.
Yeah.
And that's just the law of polarity, really.
Mhm. No, absolutely. I find that even like, I mean, we all hit those lows at one point, but you have to reach that very bottom for yourself. Like, whether that be just not having the money in your bank account, everyone has their own different of lows. But you have to hit that bottom because then from there you can only ricochet up. And it's just such, it's like the most unique and diverse feeling because you're like, I am in the worst position I can possibly be in. But the beauty of that is that there's no other way to go farther down. And you can only go better from there. So it's just kind of like that motivation and that like fire under your butt to just be like, I gotta do something and I gotta do it now. No, that's incredible though that you've been through so very much and now you're able to take that and transform others. I do have a question for you. Like, how many clients are you currently working with? Like, what, like, are you looking to expand so anybody who is in that position can come to you and reach out?
So I have about 15 clients right now. I do mostly one-on-ones. I am also working full-time. I sell cars. But yeah, I do about 6 or 7 of mindset, fitness, nutrition. And then I also separately have people that just do nutrition. If you are in a physical state where I don't feel comfortable giving you like exercise advice, like fitness advice, like I'm dealing with people who've been in like extreme car accidents and stuff like that, where they have like not necessarily the best capabilities in the gym. I don't feel comfortable giving them necessarily like fitness advice or like what to do in the gym. So I'll just give them like a separate nutrition plan and we'll do like some mindset coaching every once in a while. But I have 6 or 7 clients that I meet with weekly um, on one-on-one Zoom calls or FaceTime if they're a little closer to me. And then I do everything through like Trainerize and MyFitnessPal, and I'm looking to start like a group that meets every week. But
Yeah.
everybody's schedule is kind of all over the place now that I'm like a little bit smaller and more one on one.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually I want to do like more group sessions. I'm looking into a few other business ventures, but one of them would be like a location that's going to be used for other things, but I want to hold like monthly masterminds and stuff like that at that location. One of my business partners and I are working on something really cool that I'm excited about. Can't announce it yet, but I'm super excited about that. But it is a location of some sort where these things will happen, so I'm super excited, and I want to see you at one of them at least.
Absolutely. I will be there. I already told you I'm going to come visit you at one point or another. It's just a matter of when to get out because we're on the other side of the country. So
No,
that's
yeah,
the
seriously.
pressure to have. But no, for sure, I will be there. I cannot wait to hear the newest announcement as well. That's so super exciting. I know this is completely like off topic, but I kind of want to hear a little bit about your car love. I personally love cars myself. Um, I own a manual 2017 Subaru WRX. I freaking love that thing.
Sick.
It's so much fun. But now, where did your car love come about in all of this?
So, my dad and I are like besties. So, growing up, he made sure I knew how to change a tire. He owned like a body shop when I was super, super little. And he's just always been a Porsche guy. Like that's his car. Like he loves Porsches. He's owned like 5 or 6
No way.
Porsches in his life. Yeah, back in the '80s, like he used to drive Porsches. So, yeah, it's all stemmed from like him, and then whenever we would visit Miami, we would just see like so many cool cars, like going to visit my aunt, and I'm like, what is that? What is that? I'm always asking these questions, and he would just tell me, and I'm like, okay, that's a Lamborghini, that's the one I want. And then I would start looking on the internet for Lamborghinis and stuff, and then it just kind of went up from there. I ended up doing body work for a little while. Um, and I worked for a company out in Orlando that specifically does body work for exotic cars.
Whoa.
And that was so cool. Like I'm super grateful for that experience because I was in a position where I didn't really need a whole lot of money. So I was like just able to take the job just to be around the cars. And I was just like, oh my God, this is the most incredible experience of my life. So it became very normal for me to be around like exotics. And now that I'm older and I'm able to like spend money here and there on like marketing for my business, I do photo shoots for Mazzi Fit with exotic cars to promote my company and to promote like just the limitlessness of everybody. Like somebody that came from such a crazy background can go and rent one of these cars and drive one whenever she wants, kind of situation. And the polarity of that is so incredible. So I have a buddy in Tampa that has it's Elite Exotics of Tampa on Instagram. He also rents out yachts, and he just opened a location in Miami, and then he's also doing like like fancy rental properties and stuff. Like, really cool guy. But yeah, so every time I'm in town, he picks me up from the airport in one of these cool cars, and I just drive around and have a blast. And I really
That
can't do that out here where I'm at because there's no like small town. This is a small town, so like no company that does that out here. But being able to go home and just race around the city for like 2-3 days is always super fun.
Yeah, I see your stories all the time posting them like, how in the world is Jess doing this? I'm like, this is so sick. I'm like, I need to figure it out. That is
Yeah.
awesome though. It's so funny. We have such an overlap in that sense because I attribute my car love from my dad as well. Me and my dad are besties too. From a young age, I remember sitting in the living room. I had like the first Xbox, and we had the really cheap like the pedals and the steering wheel, and we
Yeah.
would just drive. And even crazier, my dad's favorite car is a Porsche too. He always
That's
called them Porsche.
awesome.
Yeah, it's just so funny. That's why I died laughing. I was like, I can't, I can't right now.
That's
It's
so
just so
cool.
funny that we have like that same like starting point with cars, and such a
Yeah.
unique thing too. When you were able to do some body work on exotics, that's such a crazy position to be in.
Yeah.
Have any experience prior with body shops, or did you were just like, it's open, I'm gonna go apply and see what you can get?
So very super funny story. I went to body school when I was like 18, and I got kicked out because I was on drugs, and I was welding super high, and I got kicked out of school, but I almost finished. I was like maybe like 2-3 weeks away from finishing. It was crazy. But so I did that. I ended up working for like Lincoln in the body shop, and I just didn't feel comfortable in the industry actually physically working on cars.
Yeah.
But body school also taught me how to do estimates. So I found that I didn't really like the physical work side of like body work and stuff. So I wrote estimates for a couple other companies, and then I got into car sales, and I sold a Porsche to a guy that owned the body shop for exotic cars, and he said, "No way, you write estimates? That's so cool. Come work for me." And that's where that happened. And then, it was such a cool experience, and I will thank him a million times for that. Not a forever job position for me. I ended up getting back into car sales, but that was just a really amazing like experience to just go there and write estimates and stuff like that.
No, for sure. That's such a like something that you at that point, like when you offer, like you can't pass that up. Like that's just such a
Exactly.
cool, like you don't get that opportunity often. Like it's very far and few between, but it's so cool that you're able to do that, and just such a like a unique little portion of your life that you're able to go in, like especially if when you don't need money. Like I always tell like younger people too, I'm like, just experience things. Like who cares how much money you make at first? Just learn and go at it and just have fun, because you're gonna look back and you're gonna be like, oh my god, before you get your full-time actual job, you're gonna look back and be like, dang, I should have taken it. But it's so cool that you're like yes to that opportunity and go forward with it.
Oh
Have you
yeah.
always been kind of like that with like opportunities, just going forward with, you're like, you know what? Why not? Let's go for it.
I think that building my self confidence like really kind of dug deeper into that side of me. I feel like I always had it, but I always had this kind of like maybe not, it's not the most responsible thing to do. But now that I'm like just really confident in my abilities, I say yes to whatever I feel like. So, I mean, my business partner the other day was like, "Yeah, we should, open this place and do all these things." And I was like, "Cool, let's start looking." Like, and I was just like, "Yeah, sure, let's go."
Love
And then, I'm starting to venture out into like real estate and stuff like that. And coaching is really like my home base when it comes to like grounding myself to be able to venture out in all these things. Obviously, I'm not making millions doing coaching yet, but the change and the impact that I'm having on people's lives means so much more than the money, any
Absolutely.
day. And that's why I feel like it's super important for me to venture out into these other fields to gain that passive income so that I can go out and speak and like do all these things and, leave my 9 to 5, which I love selling cars. It'll always be a super big part of my story.
Yeah.
But, it's just a stepping stone towards so much more that's to come for sure.
Absolutely. I've always looked at entrepreneurship as like, I always look at it like a staircase. I have a person that I speak to every single Friday. I have for over a year now. He's actually in the UK, but we've been kind of going through this entrepreneurship journey together. And every time he has like a new idea and he's like, I want to go do this. I'm like, go do it, dude. I was like, that's the point of being an entrepreneur. Like, yeah, you have your, like you said, your car sales, your 9 to 5. It's something that you like to do. And yeah, it's a for now sort of a thing. But as an entrepreneur, yeah, you're going from coaching and then you're going to real estate, this new business venture with your partner. Um, and it's just so much fun. And that's the beauty of, again, entrepreneurship is that you just keep doing these little steps. And as you're going about these steps, you're just building yourself up more and more as a human being. And you've probably even seen like after just doing that huge transformation of your life, like as you go through more and more phases, you just get better and better as a human being in so many different aspects and so many different avenues. And you just become a huge, well rounded individual,
Oh
which is really
yeah, learning learning is a constant. We're never going to stop that. And I think that like at this point, I welcome it. I welcome the adversity. I welcome like all the obstacles and the learning curves. Like I want it because I know that I'm going to be a savage. Like at the end of the day, like nothing is going to be able to stop me. And I think that's one thing that people need to switch up in their mind is,
absolutely.
these things aren't happening to you, that they're happening for you. Like, the universe, God, whatever you believe in, is putting you through these things in order to mold you into this unstoppable human being. Just let it happen.
Yeah.
Like this too shall pass, and you'll be like, dude, I went through all that. Like I can do so much more. Like I'm unstoppable now.
Yeah.
And I think that shift in energy is super important for people to have.
Absolutely. I 110% agree. Not to bring it back to like my church, but when I went to go see like went to church, I'm still very new into this whole like I'm learning the Bible personally just for the moral aspects of it because I feel like there's so much to learn. But there was a story that my pastor brought up and they were like it's a bunch of guys in a boat and they're in this huge storm. I'm so bad with knowing the stories. I'm that
I think
much of
it's
an ignorant.
Noah's Ark, right? Is that it?
No, it wasn't Noah's Ark. It was I think I want to say it was like Genesis, but I don't know if that's right. But
Okay.
it's like these um guys in the boat. Jesus walks out and he's like, just row, just go. And they're in this huge storm, and it's my pastor is so good at bringing out I want him on this podcast because he's just so good at bringing out the stories and applying it to real life, but he was talking about there's a storm here and there's a storm here. Or you're in the middle of a storm, but you're on the side, you're in the middle of two miracles. He goes, there's always going to be storms in your life. There's nothing there, nobody lives with just miracles left and right happening to them. And you have to go through these storms because God or whomever you, whatever your belief system is, you are being tested in the way that you go about whatever storm you're in is going to be the direction that you go into next. And that's going to be that next miracle. And you just kind of have to keep navigating life as like, okay, I'm in a storm, but you can't give up on yourself yet. You have to just keep going. You got to keep rowing, kind of keep going. Just like what Dory says, just keep swimming, just keep
Just keep
swimming,
swimming. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
swimming to
yeah.
keep going and you will get to that next miracle and it will happen. Who knows how long? It might be a few days, months, years, but it will get there. And it's so important to keep in mind because it's such an easy thing to lose track of, especially when you're deep into a storm and you just feel like the world is against you and you're just so down. You're at that very rock bottom. But as we both know, and as a lot of coaches know, and people who have been there, you will get out of it. And that's like that's probably one of the biggest takeaways I feel like that you can learn in life. Just because it's going to be a consistent thing that you come about. No, but it's beautiful. I want to go back to the opportunities thing that we were talking about, because there was another thing that I wanted to bring up in a sense of, we call it unicorn opportunities. I've always called it unicorn opportunities. And it's also in a sense of like that storm, because if you're not ready to take on those opportunities, they will pass. And those opportunities are those miracles. What has been the biggest miracle in your life thus far that you would say?
Oh my gosh.
I would say other than your transformation, because I feel like that's a huge miracle, but maybe even like something that triggered that other than just that talk with your sister.
The biggest miracle. Um, I think that being able to have the financial freedom after like being at completely zero, like negative.
Mhm.
um, and then, getting into sales and realizing, my capabilities in sales. So like selling cars truly, truly changed my life. Um, Having the ability to be like, wow, I can make as much as doctors, but I don't need a degree. I dropped out of high school. Like I had my GED at like 17, like I don't have a PhD. I don't have any of this stuff. And going into sales and being a six-figure person in my mid 20s, and then being able to say, hey, I want to take a month off of work and travel the country, and then just pick up and move to the other side of the country because I can, because my grandparents need me out here, but more importantly because I can, and being able to take my skill anywhere and
Mhm.
make the same amount of money in any state, in any city, like any part of the world. I mean, there's Toyota dealerships everywhere. So like there's one in
Absolutely.
Ireland, you know what I'm saying? Like I can literally go anywhere and sell cars. So I think that sales really brought out that like I can do anything attitude for me, because
Absolutely.
I was like, wow, like when I got my first big paycheck from selling, 20 something cars, I was like, holy cow, a person with neck tattoos and like, such a crazy past can jump into this industry and make so much money. It's insane.
Mhm.
And yeah, I've been able to just be set a good example for my family, invest in myself and in other areas of my life because of it. So I think that, yeah, if you're in a place where you're just like working at McDonald's and you feel like, minimum wage is not cutting it, go into sales.
Yeah.
My intro into sales was a dealership telling me no, and then me going and selling cell phones for 3 months, and then coming back and being like, okay, now I have sales experience. You're going to hire me, right? And they're like, oh my God, we didn't think you'd come back, like kind of situation. And they hired me on the spot. And that was just the don't take no for an answer attitude. That's where that kind of developed.
That's so cool that you've been like, so sales, I always say like sales is one of the best skill sets to have, because like you said, you can take that skill set and go anywhere. And the psychological knowledge that you have after you learn sales, you're like, oh, like you said earlier, that's why people do what they do. We all think we're all little special snowflakes, but we all are very similar.
Yeah. Everything is connected.
Yeah, everything is connected. We are all special in our own ways, but our like neurological like systems are very similar, and people's actions. That's why algorithms are a thing, because and
Mm-hmm.
that's why everything can tell you exactly what you want next. Amazon can probably deliver at this point what you want tomorrow, today, sort of
Exactly.
ordeal.
Yeah.
But no, sales is huge, and it's so cool that you learned that, and that it was actually a huge catalyst in your life as well. Um, and also taking no for an answer, that's a bold boss ass move. For
Oh yeah.
sure.
Dude, they straight up told me like, you don't have any sales experience, we can't hire you. And I was like, okay, cool. I went to this little kiosk in Sam's Club, and they were selling phones for a big phone company, and I was like, you sell cell phones? They're like, yeah, this is like cold sales. And I'm like, cool, where do I sign up? So I signed up for this little rinky dink company that sold phones for this big company, and I was like, cool. Sat there and sold cell phones for 3 months, just bothering the crap out of people in in Sam's Club. I am sure they hated me, but yeah. And then I walked back into that dealership with an updated resume and said, I have sales experience now.
Here
And
you
they were like shocked. They're like, okay, cool. First day on the floor, I sold 2 cars.
That's incredible. Holy cow.
Yeah,
Left and right. I love that.
yeah, it was awesome.
Congratulations there. And that was also like they were probably like, dang, we should have hired her first like a while ago. They're like,
Exactly.
big bad move on our part. But no, that's so cool that you're able to just go back and just like kill it.
Yeah.
Is that where you're currently working now too?
So actually, no. I started off at CarMax. That's where my journey began in car sales, and then I went to that exotic body shop, and then I found this tiny little Kia dealership to get back into sales, to just get my foot back in the door, and that didn't end up working out. We just had very different views on customer service. So I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna find a different dealership. So I ended up at a Toyota dealership in Tampa, and it was just all she wrote. Like, and then when I started working there, I was a little bit overweight. I found personal development. I ended up doubling my income at the same job. I was making 5 grand, and then I ended up making 10 grand, and I just kept doing that just from personal development. Like, you can literally just I changed my mindset. It was insane. Like,
Yep.
I took off like a rocket.
That is so cool. It isn't it crazy once you realize that like it's all your mind. Like your mind is that's why visualization, like you said, like your vision of the future earlier, like visualization of either where you want to be, what you need to be, where you can go, that is, it's all a mindset thing in your mind. Where you are right now is because of who you are, and who you are is because of your mind. And it's just crazy how little things up here can completely change your world in the physical.
Oh
um
yeah.
it like you experienced firsthand going from nothing to making 6 figures in a matter of like 5 years. It seems like, give or take 5, 6 years. Crazy. That's a huge turnaround, and something that people will look at and they're like, I can't do that, but you can.
Yeah,
It's all that mindset
definitely.
of that changing that negative. No, well, that is a beautiful story. Is there anything else you would like to leave with the listeners of this podcast?
Um, I think it's super important to find a group of people that have the mindset and that have done the things that you wish to do in life,
Yeah.
and just ask them for help, and be open to be coachable. Like, be very coachable, be very open to receiving constructive criticism, and be helpful. Like, what can you offer this world that we desperately need? And I think that you'll go very far just with those few little things.
Oh, absolutely. Having an open mind and being able to change, even though we're so adverse to it, is such a huge thing that you need to adapt into your life. I 110% agree. It was such a pleasure having you on the podcast today. You are so transformative and you're so ambitious too, and it just comes across so well. I feel so motivated to go and do more things today. And thank you so very much once again for sharing your story. And it's awesome to see where you came from and where you are now. And I cannot wait to see where you are in the future and in the coming years with your business, with the new adventures that you're going on, with sales, and with everything. It's, again, truly inspirational and transformative for everyone listening. So thank you again.
Likewise, likewise. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I definitely want to come out with my videographer and shoot some gym content with you one day for sure.
Let's do it for sure. Yeah, when I come out and then you come out here, we'll do gym content. Oh my
Oh
gosh, that'll be
yeah.
so fun.
Oh yeah.
Well, thank you again. And then if you guys do want to find Jess on Instagram or wherever else, do you want to give her a plug? I will be putting it in the show notes as well, so check there. But you want to say it now?
So Instagram mazzii.fit. Mazzi Fit on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube as well. And I will be having you on the podcast. I want to actually go and fly out there and have a live like podcast with you. It would be super
That would
awesome.
be so sick. I'd be
Yeah.
so down. Yes, we have to do that.
Oh yeah,
That'd be so
that'd be
cool.
awesome
No, yeah, for sure. We'll definitely do that. We'll have to put it on the books one way or another, but we'll get it done.
for sure. It was a pleasure meeting you.
It was such a pleasure meeting you as well. Bye.
Bye.